Alright guys, we are getting very, very close to the 10,000 subscriber mark. Thank you so much for everybody that's got me to this point. I know I don't have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, but I'm very proud of 10,000. That's a huge milestone for me. So please like, comment, share, dislike, leave a bad comment. Whatever you have to do, just engage in the video. Help me get it out there. If everyone can share it with just one of their friends, we're like 200 away from the 10,000 mark, we'll get there. So thank you guys. Thank you for everyone that's been with me since the Wasting Talent days. Thank you for everyone that's grown with me on the channel. It's been a fun journey. And now I got the Patreon going on. I'm doing a lot of content over there that I'm proud of and experimenting with new stuff. I'm putting a lot of stuff from the documentary early. There's a lot of incentives to be on the upper tiers. Like I just did an hour-long interview video with Karina, and I had the VIP members construct the interview questions, and they asked her all sorts of crazy, perverted stuff. And Megan's going to come on and do an exclusive video for Patreon telling the Mike Virgin story from her point of view, which I've been trying to get her to do for a long, long time, and I finally got her to do it. I'm really excited for that. It's going to be exclusive on Patreon. I'm starting to do Tap Tuesdays, which is just recorded phone calls between my best friend and I, and it's like a podcast. We talk about everything. I mean, it's an honest glimpse into my life. It's a lot different than the videos. It's just him and I talking, but I think it will be interesting because we have pretty weird conversations. It's going to be every Tuesday. It's just going to be audio, release it on MP3, and if you're on Patreon, you get it. And starting to do Friend Fridays, and I'm starting to do Fan Fridays. Now, the way Fan Fridays is going to work, talked about it a little bit before. If you want to be on that, if you're a subscriber of mine, and you want me to put you on, you want me to put one of your videos on my channel every Friday, I want to do a Friend Friday and Fan Friday. So there'll be 2 videos every Friday. What I need you to do is upload a story. It can be minimum 30 minutes, maximum an hour. Upload it on your phone, camera, whatever, to YouTube and mark it as unlisted. You need to be on Patreon to send me the link, but you can be on the very base tier for $3. You send me a message, say that you want to be considered for Fan Friday. I'll put you on Patreon no matter what. And what I'm going to do is have a polling system, because you can do that on Patreon, and I'm going to let the Patreon subscribers decide who gets on every Friday, who they like the best. But your content will be on that platform no matter what. And then Friend Fridays are people that I know in real life. And I just filmed my first episode over the weekend with Sinister Monopoly. You may have seen him on Big Herc Show Fresh Out. He's a pop artist that's getting a pretty sizable following right now. Like, he's doing commissioned work for people like Floyd Mayweather. And he used to be a big boy in the marijuana business. He was making $1 to $5 million a month back in the mid-2000s. This is back when you could sell a top shelf indoor pound for $6,000. That's what dispensaries were paying for top shelf. It's what some of the street value was for it. And he got in right at the right time. I interviewed him. He's a very, very conversationalist kind of guy, very interesting. And I think I asked him all the right questions. I've already released it on Patreon. I put that on a week early on there, and overwhelmingly positive responses to the first Friend Friday. That will be premiering no matter what this Friday. I don't know if we'll have the Fan Friday ready yet by that point, but submit to it. You have to be on Patreon to submit to it. You can be on the base tier of $3 a month. Send me a message. Send me a link with the unlisted video. I'll put it on Patreon no matter what. No matter what even if you're a cold weirdo and nobody votes for you, you will be on that platform and you can get feedback. I really think that it's going to create some interesting content. So there's a lot of stuff in the works, and I'm excited to be getting to the 10,000 mark. Thank you guys so much. I mean, I'm not super successful at this point, but it's amazing how haters are coming out of the woodwork. Really weird stuff's been happening. People have been like calling me out, like, "Yo, let's fight in a boxing ring." Yeah, I'll do that. Anybody, I'll fight anybody if we donate the money to charity. Doesn't matter who it is. I'll get knocked out by. Doesn't matter. I'll go in the ring with anyone. I can't fight that good. I'll get knocked out, whatever. As long as it's going to get a Narcan to people for free that need it, let's do this. And I've been putting a lot of work in for that as well. A lot of people have been sending me emails with Narcan as the subject. I haven't opened them because I'm getting hundreds of them a day. But as soon as I have a bulk supply of it, I sent out another, 15 over the weekend on Saturday. And now I'm waiting for a box of 100, and then I'm going to send those out. And then I'm going to launch the nonprofit. So all of that's happening. Thank you guys. Let's get into the story. So where we had left off last time, Ray Loco stormed into the cell, and he was mad because my ex-wife said sketchy shit over the phone. Stuff that he had told me not to say. Don't say anything that can get me hemmed up. They're actively listening to my calls. And everyone says that. You can say that you're an astronaut in prison, and, people say stuff like that. Yeah, fool, I was an astronaut, and I was smuggling narcotics into space, and now I'm busted. So what? Find out later that they're a chomo, shit like that. I mean, people say way out stuff in prison because you can be whoever you want to be. It's a fact. Anyone that's done time will say that. It's true. So he comes in, he's mad, and calls me a lame. We've talked about this a number of times. You can't say bitch, you can't say punk, you can't say lame when you're talking to another person. You cannot use those words. I've made that mistake before, like, hey man, don't be a lame. And like, what the fuck did you say? Oh, fucking, my Uncle Toby used to tell me that too, fuck you, fool. I never got beat up for that, but I got checked a number of times. So those are words that we know you can't call another person. Those are fighting words. I've never thought I was tough, as I said in the end of the last video. But prison jaded me, it definitely hardened me, and I'm not a bitch. I'm not going to be talked to like that. I'm not going to have one person talk to me like that and then have everybody coming up to me and taking my lunch money. And that's how it works in prison. If you're labeled a bitch like that, everybody's going to walk all over you because they know that you can, so you have to fight. Win or lose, at least you're saving face and you're protecting your reputation. So we're squared up. And he calls me a lame for the second time. He's like, you are fucking lame. That's what you are. I said you're lame because you are lame, because I think you're a lame. No, he called me a lame a couple times. I'm just standing there, and my cellie puts up the fantasy book. I'm like, whatever. I'm standing there, and, when you're about to fight, you get the butterflies in your stomach, everything starts getting super fluttery, and not being the best fighter in the world, I knew that I had to hit him first, and that's what I did, and I dope fiend him. I don't think he was expecting me to do that. I was smaller than him. Well, he was like stocky, but he was still like 5'9". I'm 5'6". I'm abnormally short. And I'm dope sick, and he knew that. I do not think he was expecting me to get him. I didn't get him that good, though. I got him like right there. I was trying to get him on the side of the mouth, but I got him like kind of hit half of his ear, where it hit him, surprised him, and he went like this, and he just grabbed me. And we're in an 8x10 cell. Celly like puts his legs up because now him and I are kind of like throwing each other around the cell. He gets up on me and gets me right in the face, right here. Cuts me open. I mean, he split right here. I didn't have to get stitches, but he hit me so hard that I start bleeding right there. I get around, like, you don't want to get pinned between a toilet and a wall. That's like the worst place that you can be. That's definitely where he's trying to get me. I talked about that time that I fought Randy when he called me a bitch. Similar situation. When I ate his weed because a cop was going to bust us. This was in my first 5 years in federal prison in some video. I don't know. But this happened, so I'm sure that I've talked about that in a video. And that's what people tend to do in a cell fight. They want to get you in that corner so that they can get the upper hand on you. So he's trying to get me in between the toilet and the wall. I'm already bleeding, but my adrenaline, I'm enraged. I'm fueled by adrenaline. I no longer feel feeble from the dope sickness. I'm bleeding, and it's fight or flight. Reactionary you're reduced to reaction, and anger fuels that. And it's anyone that's ever been in a fight knows that when you're tunnel visioned by adrenaline, you don't feel pain, you don't feel sick, you're simply surviving. So he had cut me, he's trying to get me to that little space, and I finally get a good one right there. You know, I like get on top of him, I do just a little one. Now I bust his lip pretty good. We both have made each other bleed at this point. You know, and it's when you're fighting in a cell, it's loud. You know, you can hear the banging. You can hear somebody hitting a locker. You can hear somebody hitting a toilet. You can hear somebody hit the wall. Nobody came at this point. Usually people are going to run to the cell, whatever. If it's like at a count time or there's no people in the day room, then it's way easier to hear. But you got to think this is like in the middle of the day. Everybody's out in the day room being loud, throwing dominoes, playing cards, hooting and hollering. Nobody came in, and what happened is we both got worn out. We're wrestling each other. We're both bleeding. There's droplets of blood all over the cell at this point. We're both out of breath, and he had me like kind of held in a chokehold. Hey, you done? You done, fool? And I was just like, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. I get up. And now, from experience fighting in jail or prison, just because you tap out, it's not me. That's me just saying I'm done fighting. That's not me conceding that he won. I'm just out of breath, and I'm fatigued at this point. Generally in a fight, if you're not conditioned, you got 2 or 3 good, really good hits, and then the rest of them are just whatever. You're not really hurting somebody. We're both out of breath. I'm looking at him. His lip is fat, swollen. My eye is completely cut open. He's like, hey, why the fuck did you hit me? The fuck is wrong with you, fool? He almost sounds like he's crying, but he's not. He's just out of breath. What the fuck is wrong with you, fool? I'm like, dude, you call me a lame. What am I supposed to? What do you mean? Where am I? What the fuck kind of prison is this? You can eat with other races. You can sell up with other races. You can call other races lames. This isn't like any prison I've ever been to in California. This is weirdo shit. He kind of gets up and he's like, are you all right? I'm still mad. I'm like, are you all right? Oh, yeah. He's like, he's bent over. He's like, yeah. Now, pause real quick. I made a big mistake. I took off on a Southsider. You can't do that. You cannot do that when you're in a political spot. But it seems like this place isn't political, at least for the whites. I mean, even the Southsiders are telling me they're eating with blacks at this point. So I'm like, but still, in my conditioned prison politic mind, I know that I just made a mistake, because what happens in a situation like this is, thank God it happened in a cell, because if it happened in the day room and I had just dope fiended him the way that I did, what would have happened, every Southsider in there, it's required politically that they all run and they just start taking off on any white guy. They make sure that I'm getting beat up first, and then all of them just jump. And that's why prisons go up in flames over racial stuff all the time. And even though we're allies with the Southsiders, or at least we were then, things are changing rapidly. The last term I was on, from 2018 to 2007, end of 2017 to March of 2019. When I was in the feds, Southsiders were telling me that it's kind of not like that anymore. In the woods, it's kind of like a case-by-case basis. It's not automatic. We're jumping for the Southsiders and vice versa. I had no idea. Politics had obviously changed, at least at this spot since I'd been there, but I knew that I had made a mistake by hitting him. You don't just do that. But then again, he called me a lame. So it's one of those catch-22 situations where I made a mistake by hitting him, but he made a mistake in the first place by calling me a lame, and these are things that can get blown out of proportion. It's the kind of thing where if a Southsider is going to find out, the Woods are going to find out, even though we don't have any, we just have a bunch of Tom Hanks-looking chomos at this spot. It's the kind of thing where we can go to war right there. A huge riot's going to pop off. And then at a place like that, it's different floors. People are going to jump on vents. You know, so, hey, we're going at it with the white boys. You know, and the chomos are, I don't know what they're doing. Hey, Harry. Hey, man, can I use your computer password? I don't think the cops are going to pay attention because chomos aren't allowed to be on the computer. You know, if you've committed some sort of like kiddie porn or computer-related sex crime, you can't use the federal Core Links computer system. And like I've said, there's not protective custody in the feds. Generally, those guys go to low-security prison, which makes no sense. Nonviolent drug offenders going to go to some rough, combative, medium security or USP. They always protect the child molesters. In state, they put them in SMY, PC, and in the feds, they put them in a nicer condition, low-security prison. They're not allowed at camps, and they're generally not at the mediums. They're at lows. And then there's like bad cases where they're at USPs. But like I said, you know, USP Tucson's the only one I know of. I think there's a sex offender program at Marion too. There's a few USPs, which is like, you know, high security federal prison. It's not like super maximum security like ADX, but it's the highest place someone like me could go without like cutting off another inmate's head. And then you go to like ADX, or like if you kill a cop, you go to ADX. Or if you're like the Unabomber, you go. If you're high profile and they can't put you in general population because people will kill you, that's where you go. You know, there's people that had some role in 9/11 at ADX. You know, so he's sitting there, he's out of breath, and now we're both kind of coming back to earth. And I feel horrible. I'm dope sick. The adrenaline is literally just subsiding, and I'm back to withdrawal. I almost felt like I came, you know, like endorphins, dopamines, and then like feel instantly back into withdrawal. It's kind of like, you know, when you're sick. So I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, man, I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't think we should tell anyone. He's like, hey, I feel the same fucking way, fool. They'll discipline me. I don't want to get fucked off right now. Let's just act like it didn't happen. And I was like, yeah, all right, I agree. Stick my hand out, and he shakes it. Now, it's another bad thing we're doing. See, now this is, on my first term, yes, I made mistakes. I was doing dope fiend stuff. But I stayed, once I was schooled, once I learned from some mistakes, I stayed within the parameters of the political structure. On this term, because now or this violation, I'm around other people that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, this is when I started deviating from the program a little bit. You know, it's like, that's not cool. You don't get in a fight with another race and then just keep it secret like that. I've seen somebody get stabbed over that. There was somebody running, Victorville, who's from Iowa. His name was Travis, and he got in a fight with a black guy. Same kind of situation. They tried to keep it on the DL, and Travis ended up getting removed over this. And, you know, you don't necessarily have to get removed when you get in trouble. You can get a DP. For Southsiders, you have to go in a cell with 2 other Southsiders, and they beat you up for 13 seconds because M is the 13th letter of the alphabet. If you're white, it's 23 seconds. I don't know why we get the short end of the stick on that. 23 seconds, that's 10 seconds you're fucking feeling. 23 seconds in a cell with 2 white guys beating you up. That's a DP. I think it's disciplinary protocol, or I don't know. Someone tell me what that stands for. I don't know. So we decide not to tell anyone. And I honestly look worse than he does because it's on my eye. And I'm just like, you know, they have ICE in the feds. They don't have ICE in state prisons generally, or at least in California state that I've been to. But they have ICE in the feds, so I can get the swelling to go down, so maybe I won't get a shiner. His lip was fat, but it wasn't as noticeable as what was going to happen to me. It was going to start darkening. There was going to be a big, there's going to be like a big cut. And if the cops see it, they're going to do a knuckle check. they're going to go around and check everybody's knuckles like this. And if they see scrapes, which we both have, because we both just fought, we're going to go to the hole for fighting, and then we're going to get removed. Well, maybe not me, because I don't think that, last time I checked, I couldn't even imagine chomos trying to remove somebody. I'm sure that would go down pretty comically. But the Southsiders definitely had some soldiers that would do it. So now it's like just adding to the anxiety. I'm in a bad place with unsolid people. I don't have any white guys to rely on. Miles is like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, man, I know I'm good, man. I didn't need your help. I'm cool. It's not like another race and I were just fighting in front of you. But it wasn't his fault. He'd never been to prison. I was actually like the first white guy that started educating him. And nobody had done that. No one had told him, like, hey, man, this is like how prison works. No, he didn't know anything. He was scared. He'd never been to prison. I know exactly how he felt. I felt really bad for him. And, Ray Loco ends up leaving. I gave him a little tobacco too. I'm just like, hey, man, like, whatever. I'm sorry that my wife did this. I understand why you're mad. Sucks that we fought. Here's some tobacco. Please. I will not say anything if you don't say anything. I'm not trying to have this turn into some big old situation. He's like, yeah, for sure. That's not. Yeah. For sure, pedal. I got you. Stay down, Wood. All right. So he leaves, and, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm looking at how bad my eye looks. I'm like, man, I had enough commissary where I didn't have to leave that cell for anything. I was just like, you know what? Whatever. So I started having Mike, like, if people needed stuff, I had him do it, and I just stayed in bed. And I had a good excuse because I was kicking. So, like, the dude from Orange County would, after he had, like, put me on blast and told everyone that I brought contraband in, he'd be like, hey, brother, what's up, homie? So, Chili, since you've been here, smoking cigarettes. And I'm like, dude, you told everyone. What the hell is the matter with you? He's like, oh, man, I've never even done time. I'm like, what are you in here for? I didn't even, it's like, I didn't even want to know. But I asked, and apparently he was, like, doing some sort of, like a man-made Roxy cotton ring. Or at least that's what he said. I didn't even look at his pay. I don't know. It's like, I knew that I was going to Lompoc. I knew I wasn't going to be there that long. And now I'm sitting there with my eye fucked up and really under a lot of stress that I'm going to be found out. Somebody's going to find out. It's going to get back to Sporty. And there's going to be no choice but to have retribution against me and Ray Loco. We're both in a bad position now. So I'm just up in the upper bunk. I'm sure I beat off a number of times because that's what I do when I'm kicking. And that's what I do when I'm not kicking. I'm just a compulsive masturbator. It's part of my, it's part of my apparatus. Part of who I am. So, Sporty ends up coming after dinner, as he told me he would, and he brings me some Suboxone. It's probably the worst thing that could have happened to me, because he brings me, now, everyone know, if you don't know, a little Suboxone strip is like that big, maybe that big, and it's 8 milligrams, and like I've talked about before, nowadays in prison, from what I've seen, they cut that 8 milligram strip because it's like a little thin, looks like a Listerine strip. It's orange, and you can cut it into 32 teeny tiny pieces, and each one of those pieces goes for $10. Street value for Suboxone strips about $10. You get 90 of them a month. Medi-Cal, which is the free insurance in California, covers it for free, covers the prescription. You just have to pay the doctor visit. It's like $100 a month. You get 90 of them. People sell Suboxone for $10 a piece. And in prison, they're doing a 32 pieces, little teeny piece, $10. He brought me probably a quarter of an 8, which for prison that's fat. That's like, $60, $70. if you're buying it straight up like that. He brought me like a nice piece. And, you know, he brought it. It was like in like a tight folded piece of paper with like little, what people do is like when they make papers is what heroin sacks are called in prison, a paper. You get like a 50 paper, 100 paper, you can get a paper speed, whatever. And usually it comes in like a little folded piece of paper, and they get these mailing labels because in the feds, they started implementing this policy where you had to have mailing labels to send letters out. That's another way where they wanted to keep record of your contacts. So you couldn't send out a letter unless you had a mailing label on it, and you would print these labels out on the computer. That way they had all your contacts in some database. And, you know, they were sticky labels, so people would use those as like tape to put pictures up, but to also make the papers. You know, that's what papers would come in. A little piece of paper, and then it'd be like wrapped up with the mailing label or like the blank pieces of it. So, I mean, someone's name, you know, because they put your register number on that with the address, but they use the blank spaces of it and they wrap it up. He gave me like a quarter of a 8 milligram strip, and I'm like, you know what? I was so great. I'm like, dude, thank you so much. And I'm up in my bunk. You know, he hands it to me, and I just like open it really quick. And as I'm looking at it, he's like, hey, what's up with your face? The fuck? I was like, yeah, dude, being on the upper bunk, I'm all sick. I got up and I fell. He looks at me, he's like, Brian, I'm not a cop. Who the fuck did you fight? I'm like, no, because that's like the most common. Yeah, I fell getting into my bunk. Your whole face is like cut open because you just got like stomped out on the yard. Yeah, I fell in the shower. It's like stuff that you would tell a cop. Ryan, who did you fight? I'm like, I didn't get in a fight. Honestly, I was just, Mike, isn't that true? And he's just like, in his book, he doesn't want any part of it. I don't blame the guy. Who did you fight, Ryan? Now it looks like I'm not being honest with him. And I'm like, look, I fell. Take it for what it is, you know? Like, what are you calling me, a liar? I told you what happened. And he's very, like, ominous about this. All right. That's what everyone does in the film. All right. And he's, like, leaving. I'm like, hey, Sporty. He's like, what? I'm like, hey, thanks for the Suboxone. Yeah. Don't trip, fool. Takes off. Like, immediately, I'm like, Mike, I'm so fucked. And he's like, I don't know, you know, he's from tech. I don't know, you know, monotone, but, you know, I don't know why in the hell you didn't just tell him? Why don't you just tell him that the dude called you a lame? Fuck it. He made a mistake. I'm like, I shouldn't have taken off on him. You can't just tee off on another race. Like, I'm screwed. He's like, well, you know, aren't you going to Lompoc, like, any day? And, like, so the way, they don't tell you when you're doing your transport. You know, it's secret. They do it in the middle of the night. And they do that because, again, they don't want you calling Uncle Paco and having him bring a bazooka or some militant cartel task force that's going to, like, hijack the transportation bus and get El Chapo out of it or whatever. Whoever it is. It's federal inmates. There happens to be some big boys in there. So you don't know when you're going, but, you know, generally you know, like, all right, the bus that leaves for Lompoc goes on Tuesday. If you're going up that direction, if you're going to, like, Atwater, Lompoc, like, Atwater's by Bakersfield, Lompoc is by Santa Barbara, so it's, like, the same bus. And, you know, if you're going to Victorville, it's down in the Inland Empire. Terminal Island, which is in San Pedro, that's the same place that Henry Hill from Goodfellas, the guy that Ray Liotta played, like, Terminal Island is where he did his time. It's this super, super sick, low-security prison right on the water. It's, like, right on this harbor in San Pedro. People have told me that place is amazing. Like, they have, like, little tour boats that go by, and there's, like, girls on it, like, drinking, and they're like, yeah, and they, like, flash you. That's not where I was. I was at MDC LA with Ray Loco. But I heard T.I.'s cool, and that's where Sinister Monopoly did some of his time. And that's just a sick spot. If you're going in that direction, if you're going to Victorville, what else is down there? I don't know, getting transferred down to San Bernardino, which is like another place that they keep you for like they hold you federally. So different buses go different directions, so you generally know that one goes this day, one goes another day, and I don't know, Lompoc was supposed to be one of the days. So we like had an idea of when it's going to come, and I was always ready to go at that point. And I went around asking people, right when I had found out, this is before I got in the fight, I asked people, like, hey, has anyone been to Lompoc? I was trying to figure out people, you know, that had been there. Like, you know, I think a couple black dudes were like, yeah, well, I've been there, and they'd start telling me about it, and I'd ask them what exclusive commissary items we had at MDCLA that they didn't have at Lompoc, because that's always a good move if you're going to do a transfer. It's to get commissary at the institution you're at that you know is not going to be at the next spot, because then you can mark it up significantly. And he told me, get atomic fireballs. There's lifers at Lompoc that like haven't tasted an atomic fireball in like 17 years that'll like pay $5 for a, you know, a little bag that you're getting for $1. So when I was getting paid, you know, when people owed me store and everything, or if they already had them, because a lot of times when people buy drugs, you know, people, or drugs or tobacco, whatever it is, they'll just take stuff out of their locker, put it in like a laundry bag and be like, boom, there's $60. There you go. There's $20, whatever it is. So I got a lot of these atomic fireballs, and I was ready to go at any day. And again, I was hoping that I wasn't going to be found out that I'd gotten in this fight with Ray Loco, because then I'm absolutely screwed. So I remember like the night before I might have been going to Lompoc, I had everything ready. I was going to leave Mike with like all my stuff, except I was going to bring like $150 worth of just atomic fireballs. So I could make, you know, it's like bringing the bags like this big, and I could bring a lot of them, and I'd get a lot of money for it. Sometimes certain prisons have like weird regulations about how many specific items you can have or whatever. But I said, how's the R&D at Lompoc? Because that's who clears what kind of property you can have. And they're cool. Don't trip. Bring all the atomic fireballs that you can. So that was like my thing. I stayed up in bed, and one thing that I had Mike doing was like trading mackerel, tunas, whatever I had for atomic fireballs. I started getting to know him. And what he told me like a really sad story about what his life was like. He was from somewhere in Texas, and you know, he was a bad alcoholic. He had been in Alcoholics Anonymous for a number of years, and you know, he was like a real alcoholic, like I was. He knew all about kicking alcohol, and he had like all these suggestions that would help me during that time. And basically, what he had told me, if I remember correctly, this is a few years back, and I was kicking, but I think that he had been married for like 25 years, and he was in the program sober, and his wife had died of a heart attack, or had died suddenly, stroke, whatever it was. And he had relapsed on alcohol, got in his van, and he just went on some epic, like, cross-country alcohol run, getting wasted and, like, stealing shit from department stores and feeding his alcohol addiction that way. Well, eventually, it wasn't cutting, and he was getting so drunk, and he couldn't support himself just by simply shoplifting, that he went into a bank, and he put a note that said, this is a bank robbery. There's 3 drawers. I want you to unload all 3 drawers into this envelope, whatever, some sack, whatever it was. And, you know, that's what professional bank robbers do most of the time, is they do notes, because if you don't have a weapon, or if there's not implied threat or whatever, you get less time. You get like 2 or 3 years for it, and you can make a lot of money. I was like, how much were you making? He's like, well, I got like $1,500 from this bank, and then I went to this bank and I got $70,000, and then I did this. So it's just, you know, hit or miss. He went around doing a string of bank robberies with notes, and he'd never been in trouble before, and he was looking at like 5 or 6 years. First time in prison, and he was just horribly depressed over the loss of his wife, this new world that he had been thrown into. And I started explaining to him, you know, what would be expected of him once he made it to like a real prison. I'd be like, you're probably going to go to a low because of your age. They have different politics there, but this is how you should carry yourself. You know, look someone in the eye when you shake their hand. You know, always be down for your own race. Always say, excuse me. You know, be polite, know how to fight. Be ready to fight. You do that, you're pretty much good. Don't run up debts for gambling, for drugs, tobacco. Don't fuck punks. And we spent a lot of time talking about that, talking about my toxic marriage. And the only time that I had to leave the cell at this point, because I was just living off commissary food in there, was to shower. You know, that's another thing about prison. I mean, it's kind of an unspoken rule, but you have to shower every day. If you don't shower every day, you are a dirtbag. Even though I'm a messy person in the cell, I'm always hygienic. You know, like I shower every day, especially in prison. There's all this staph infection and all sorts of MRSA and all sorts of weird shit. So I'd leave the cell to go shower, and I was this is another weird thing about this place. People would walk around in their shower shoes, which is essentially flip-flops. I was always schooled, when you go to the shower, wear your boots or wear your shoes. So I had already gotten another pair of shoes, because like lame ones with Velcro, that's what they give you. That's what you can buy off store at MDCLA. That I was always told to always go to the shower in shoes, bring your shower shoes with you, and then when you're in the shower, take your shoes off, put the shower shoes on, shower that way, and then walk back with your shoes on. This way, if you're walking to the shower, a riot pops off, you can run and back people up. You know, you're not going to get stuck if somebody just comes and starts firing off on you because you're wearing shower shoes, and you get stuck because you're in these flip-flops. So I'd go to the shower and I'd put like a towel around my face, just because a lot of people do that anyway, just because you have to carry like your shampoo, your soap. You don't have a lot of free hands, so a lot of people just like drape a towel over their head and just like kind of walk to the shower. And I was doing that because I didn't want anyone to. Now it had gotten like kind of purplish, and I didn't want people to see. And so I'd go to the shower. Now, a phenomenon that we have not talked about yet in prison is called a shower shark. These are people that randomly and arbitrarily come talk to you while you're in the shower. Generally, you know, at MDCLA, it's not group showers, it's shower stalls. And like, it's like, you know, this tall. So like you're concealed, but like somebody can like walk up to it and like if they look in, they can see, but not otherwise. And that's where the shower sharks really come out. They'll like literally like watch for you from across the day room. Just imagine them with like binoculars on. They like see you, zero in on you, and then they find some like lame excuse to come talk to you. And I remember in this particular situation, I had walked to the shower, you know, in my shoes. I get to the shower, I'm showering, scrubbing myself with soap, I'm dope sick. Hot shower feels good when you're dope sick. And this heavyset Hispanic guy comes up to me. Never talked to him before. Straight shower shark move. He's like, hey, fool, who's next? You know, he's outside the shower. And, you know, that's, hey, who's got the next shower? And when you just get to a spot, you don't know everyone's name. I'm like, I don't know, some black guy. And then he walks right up to the little thing, and it looks like the guy from Home Improvement. He's like, hey, fool. Hey, you listen to Linkin Park, dog? I got a fucking MP3 player with white boy shit like that. If you want to use it. I'm like, yeah, like, let's talk when I'm not in the shower. Is that cool? Yeah, hey, what happened to your face? Hey, did you get in a fight or some shit? Hey, what's up, dude? I'm like, hey, man, I'm like covering myself, like, hey, let's just talk when I'm out of the shower. Get out of the shower, and, you know, I dry off, you know, get all the water out of my shower shoes, put my shoes back, my regular shoes back on, I walk back to the cell. I get in there, and right as I walk in the cell, Sporty is sitting on the lower bunk with Mike Miles. And he goes, hey, Leone. This is what Sporty says. And I go, what? Like, you know, I have my shirt off, the towel, this wet towel over my head. I'm like, what's up? He's like, hey, man, we got a fucking problem. And we'll get into what happens next in the next part of the Federal Prison series. Like, comment, share, subscribe, dislike. Do what you gotta do. Patreon.com/RyanLeone. Help me get to 10,000 subscribers. I love you. Palabra. Usually I say palabra and then the phone goes off. I'll try it again. Palabra.